You're listening to the Geek Watch Podcast, episode 66. 2019 ain't over yet.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 66 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
Well, of course, the big news, we have Marvel's Avengers Endgame still chugging along. Even though it does feel like an end, it just seems like this week has been a lot of reminders that, hey, 2019 isn't through with the geeky stuff. There's a bunch of it coming up in the next months or so, and we're going to talk about that, certainly. But before we get started with that, I did want to bring something up. We didn't talk about this last week because, of course, that was our Endgame podcast. We did the spoiler review. But last week, Peter Mayhew passed away on April 30th at the age of 74. Of course, the Geek Watchers out there know him as the gentle giant who portrayed Chewbacca in the Star Wars movies. And he was just a hair away from his 75th birthday. Wow. But the tributes from everyone have been really touching. Mark Hamill had some really nice things to say. Yep. Of course, everybody just really, Harrison Ford, it really touched me, a lot of things that he had to say about his friend. And
he was supposed to have made a convention appearance. Yeah. So they left his booth up, and they would have people who were going to get autographs from him come up and make donations to his preferred charities. And I think that's just amazing.
He did a lot of charity work, which just goes to say, that just goes to show what kind of a man that he was. Again, just having the ability to wear a yak's hair suit, and only really be able to express himself through his eyes and his body movements, but to take a character like Chewbacca and make him so well loved, that just shows the skill and talent that he had as an actor. And of course, he was a fixture of the Star Wars movies, and he will certainly be missed. Well, let's talk a little bit about Marvel Avengers, because it made another $1 billion over the last weekend.
This is breaking the bank.
It is. It definitely is. So people are still going to see it. I'm still seeing people online, especially on Facebook, telling people, don't give me any spoilers. I haven't seen it yet. So apparently there are more people still waiting to see it. So now whether it's going to be able to keep that momentum, I don't know. I don't know if this is like a huge explosion at the beginning and it's going to filter out pretty quickly. If it keeps going at the rate that it's going, it's going to be the top.
Could it break Avatar? There was, I can't remember if we were talking about it or Kevin and I were talking about it, was that Avatar stayed in the theater for a long time and it didn't have a whole lot of competition.
Right.
Yes. And so, that was a big factor in it being the highest grossing movie of all time. But that's the thing about Avengers. We have other stuff coming up. So we'll have to see where it goes from here.
Oh, that's true. Now, I tell you, I have seen a lot of articles online. I just saw one today from IndieWire that it outgrossed Titanic, which was the number 2 movie. So it's now the number 2 movie. And IndieWire had posted an article saying it didn't beat Titanic and it never will. And so there was a lot of there's been a lot of hate thrown at Endgame by some members of the press. Of course, this is nothing new, but it just feels like there's a lot of animosity toward this superhero movie that there's the possibility that it might be the highest grossing film of all time. It's certainly one of the highest. Now it's at number 2. James Cameron posted on Twitter this picture of the Titanic being tipped over by the Avengers logo. And he of course, congratulated them. Now, his Avatar, which he directed, is still at number 1. Will it stay that way? I don't know. Maybe it'll beat it. Maybe it won't. But, at least, like I said, James Cameron, that was really cool for him to give Disney that nod, which I think is wonderful. I know, again, some people are not that happy that some superhero movie is doing so well, but, what can you do? I will say this. I was very careful about watching reviews for Endgame until I'd seen the movie. And one thing that I noticed about a lot of the reviews, and I had to mention this because it's kind of funny to me, I have to say, but a lot of the reviews that I saw, I was watching them, and I noticed that a lot of reviews, they would spend a lot of time just talking about what happened in the movie. And I just said to myself, why are you doing that? What's the point of doing a review of a movie if you're just going to talk about what happened in the movie, right? Don't just recap the movie, express something else besides that. And so, then of course we do episode 65 of the Geek Watch podcast, and spoilers for that episode. I got on the microphone and spent all the time just basically recapping.
We recapped the entire movie. Yes,
that's what
so
I'm a goofball. So in case any of you are wondering, you realize you just mostly recapped the movie. I realize that now.
It's such a fun movie, and it's hard not to do that.
Because I think mostly what we're doing, there was a lot of emotion and a lot of things that we enjoyed in that movie, and of course we just want to talk about the things that we enjoyed, and which was most of the movie. Mm-hmm. So, but we did talk about a few things about the movie. But yeah, I just thought that was, sometimes, if you can't laugh at yourself, and you got to call yourself on your own BS sometimes. So we'll have to see. And I mean, next week we'll see. I think this next week is really going to be an indicator of what ultimately Endgame's going to do in the box office. Now, I mean, if it keeps the same momentum, well, it's going to make it another $1 billion, and it's going to be the top grossing movie. Now, of course, some people say, well, if you weigh it on inflation and all that stuff, then Gone with the Wind is going to be the highest grossing film. And I get that. Now, like I said, if it makes another $1 billion, well, then...
But is that true? Because I was under the impression that Gone with the Wind actually didn't do too well in the theaters, and it was a while later before it became the classic that we know it to be. I could be wrong, but I thought that at the time it didn't do well because it was too expensive. They didn't make their money back, along those lines. But
well, I mean, there were so many. I think ultimately there were so many replays on it, but yeah, I mean. If you go on to Box Office Mojo, if you look at their highest grossing movies of all time based on inflation, their number one is Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Again, if it makes another $1 billion, if the momentum keeps going, then I mean, obviously you're going to be looking at Endgame as a top grossing film. At the same time, if it completely drops off, well, then we realize, well, this was a big explosion, a lot of people right off from the beginning, but there's no momentum, which I get it. I mean, if everybody's seen the film and they've seen it as much as they've wanted to see it, there you go. But for me, as far as staying power for these Marvel films tend to stay in theaters and make money for a while. Mm-hmm.
And then get re-releases, like Black Panther did. So
right. So honestly, I mean, this next week is really going to be telling. So I guess what we can do is just watch it, watch the numbers, see what's happening. Of course, we'll talk about it next week. Mm-hmm. But since we're talking Marvel, we had a trailer drop this week for Spider-Man: Far From Home. This has been the most detailed trailer we've gotten so far. Oh yeah,
did you watch the one that had Tom Holland at the beginning, saying, "I'm about to show you the trailer. If you haven't seen Endgame, stop watching now. But if you have seen Endgame, go ahead and get ready for the trailer."
Which I found really meta that Tom Holland would be warning you about spoilers. Mm-hmm. Well, of course there's spoilers. It's Tom Holland.
Yes. Tom Holland and his notorious spoilage. Right.
I mean, pretty much any time he opens his mouth, he should say, "Oh, by the way, there's spoilers." Mm-hmm. For what? Anything. It's just, there's going to be spoilers. But let's talk a little bit about the trailer. There are going to be spoilers for Endgame because we're going to have to talk about this trailer. But wow, the way they started it out, they wanted to make sure that you understood that we are going into a world post-snap.
Yep. And
things did not just automatically go back to the way they were as if nothing happened.
Right. And, looking at it, and first thing that, Peter says is, "I see his face everywhere." And of course, he's talking about Tony. And, and looking at all the people who disappeared and came back. It's been 5 years. There are people who were their friends who have graduated high school. There are people who have lost their homes.
Right.
And now they have to, this is going to be, it's very good that they are taking these things into account.
Right.
And making us really think, here's the reality of it. If, you're gone and then you come back, you have to deal with all of these things.
Exactly. And so the death of Tony Stark is going to play heavily in this movie. The snapping is definitely going to play heavily in this movie because, well, first of all, because, like you said, there are people who have been gone for 5 years and are now back. And you have, like, Peter Parker, who, what's interesting is, I don't know if this is, if this will play out in the movie, but if you look at his passport, there's no year on it for his birthday. They've taken the years off. Which, let's face it, how do you deal with your birthday if you've been gone for 5 years, but you're technically haven't aged at all? Yeah, it's just like
That's something that this new world is going to have to, decide on. There was a movie called Pitch Black, with Vin Diesel in it, and it was an early 2000s movie, so it had its own website at the time, and you could go and you could learn about the characters in it. And one thing they had on there was actual age and aged plus cryo, because in that universe, cryo sleep is a big thing. So you could have been asleep for 2 or 3 years, and then you have your actual age, and then your age plus your cryo.
Yes.
So this could be something that they choose to do. I can't think of any other it has to be out there, other literary or movies or something that have done something similar, to account for no aging, kind of.
Yeah, from what I understand, that's going to play a huge part in the movie because, again, Peter Parker is 16. Technically speaking, if you look at his birthday, he should be able to buy alcohol, but he shouldn't be buying alcohol, right? Because he's, technically he's still 16, but he's actually closer to 21, 15, 21, Oh,
but he's going to Europe in this, so he could only have to be 18 to buy alcohol. So that's his school trip. He's jumping the pond, and he's going on vacation, as he says to the police, I'm going on vacation. And he ends up in London, and he ghosts, it's so funny, he ghosts Nick Fury.
Yes.
He does not answer his phone because he does not want to talk to Nick Fury, and it's like, you can't ghost Nick Fury. It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I mean, I love how Happy is going to be more involved in this film, and of course, he's been working for Tony for so long, so that it's affected him as well. But again, there's so much stuff going on in this movie, and also they've introduced the multiverse into this movie. So the concept of the multiverse, which now opens up a lot of things, especially now that Marvel has the Fox properties back, there's a lot of stuff they can do with the multiverse. The problem with all of this is, of course, we get our first real introduction to Mysterio. And the basic premise that's laid out in the trailer is he was a hero in another Earth. The snap opened up a portal into this world, and he's on this Earth. He got sucked through. Apparently, things didn't turn out so well on his Earth, and he's going to try to save this one.
Or that's what he's telling us.
We all know Mysterio from the comics. Now, is this movie going to swerve us, and he's actually going to be a hero? And as a, bringing in the multiverse, I mean, that's a certain possibility. But there's also a certain expectation because, number one, we know in the comics that Quentin Beck, a.k.a. Mysterio, is an actor and a liar. And basically, I mean, this is his M.O. If anybody is going to lie about being from another dimension, it's Mysterio. It's his M.O. So I don't know how they're going to play this. If I had to lay money on it, Quentin is a liar. So I'm not sure, again, I know that the movie is really going to push for us to believe that Quentin is who he says he is. But if you're a fan of the comics, you know that Mysterio is the master of illusion, and this is his forte. And so I think he's lying. I think pretty much everybody else is thinking that he's lying. But the one thing I have to say, I noticed that a lot of other people notice this as well. But there's that one scene where Peter is wearing glasses and he takes them off and he goes, "Oh my God." And a lot of eagle-eyed viewers noticed that they remember the scene from Avengers Infinity War where Tony Stark, along with Doctor Strange and Wong and Bruce Banner, are standing in the middle of the street, facing two of the children of Thanos. And Tony takes off the glasses and he puts on his armor. The nanotech armor appears on him. And a lot of people notice that those are the same glasses that Peter Parker takes off. So those glasses may be Stark tech, and they may be allowing him to see something that obviously has shocked the heck out of him.
Okay.
So I guess at this point, comes out July 2nd. And this is what's weird about I'll just mention this. They're bringing it out on a Tuesday.
That is weird.
Yeah, because normally movies come out on a Thursday. It was going to come out on Thursday, which is July 4th.
Some movies come out it used to be Wednesdays and Fridays.
Yeah.
So now it's the night before. It's, Thursdays and Tuesdays. So I guess this isn't completely out of the ordinary, but...
Well, they were going to release it on July 4th, but they bumped it back to bring it out on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And so, not sure exactly why they did that, but what that will allow us to do, of course, is normally we record on Thursday, so we're probably, instead of talking about, it started out this week, we'll be able to talk about it, because we'll have seen it. Now, something we didn't talk about last week, I kind of mentioned it a little bit, and there's reason to talk about it this week, but Sonic the Hedgehog trailer came out last week.
Yes, I actually watched it. Yeah, I didn't have any interest in, I never played Sonic the Hedgehog, so I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I watched it.
Well, I did play Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis, and I wasn't looking for a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but not that I had I was against it, but then this trailer came out, and the internet lost their collective minds.
Yep.
Because of the way Sonic looked.
Sonic is a little uncanny valley for them.
Yeah.
He looks creepy. I don't like him.
Yeah. And especially with Detective Pikachu, which did so well, and people are really positive about that movie, but Sonic, people were losing their minds. And the reason I bring it up is because this week on Twitter, the studio's like, "Hey, we listened. We heard you.
Thank you for your feedback. We've heard you. We've listened to you." Yeah.
Yes, and they said what they're going to do is they're going to remaster Sonic so that he looks better, whatever that means. We're going to change Sonic the Hedgehog for you. I got to tell you, I don't know how I feel about... Well, I do know how I feel about that. I think this is a mistake.
Oh, uh-huh.
I do think this is a mistake, and not because I think that the Sonic design is all that good. It does look uncanny valley, especially the teeth and the nails. It is kind of creepy. Mm-hmm. And this is going to sound weird for me to say this because I am a fan. I am a geek. But sometimes you can't go with just what the geeks are telling you.
The fans, the audience.
Yeah, you can't always do. Once you've released something, you gotta let it stand. And I'll give you the best example because we've talked about this before. I enjoyed Shazam. I had a problem with the costume, no secret. But if before the movie was released, if somebody would have called me and said, "Hey, do you think they should change the costume?" I would have said, "No, absolutely not. Do not change the costume." Even though I didn't like the costume. First of all, it didn't ruin the movie for me. But here's the thing. Number one, the only thing this has done for the internet fans is it's made them enjoy the fact that they made a major studio, Paramount, stop mid-step and completely change stuff because they didn't like it. This has not made anybody now interested in seeing this movie who wasn't interested before. Okay? But the other thing, too, is that this begs the question, if the studio has admitted, "Hey, we made a mistake here," where else have they made a mistake? That's going to be in the back of everybody's minds. Honestly, the studio, I think they got really nervous and scared about the reception of the character, and they decided to do damage control and make this change. And so, studios are not immune to this. Not that they really changed the movie around, but of course, when we got the blue genie
in
Aladdin, it was basically because they had seen a picture of the genie not blue, which is part of the movie. And they're like, he's not blue. And so people got upset. Well, he didn't look like the movie. And so they show him in the trailer being blue. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's blue, just like he was in the animated movie. And so, to be honest, I don't know if making a change to Sonic is going to do anything but make people go...
Maybe it's just something with blue characters.
Very well, they didn't change anything on Avatar, and it at this point it's still the number one movie.
But they did change something on Nightcrawler. Instead of making him furry, they made his skin blue, and he put tattoos all over his blue skin. So yeah, something to do with blue characters.
Oh, that's very possible. To be honest, not that I think this movie was going to do really well, because like I said, I played Sonic, and I wasn't all that eager for a Sonic movie, but I don't think this helps them. I actually think that this hurts them. But
I'm not sure about it, because look at how popular the Emoji Movie was. So I think it's going to have, the kids are just going to come out in droves to see this.
I'm sorry. Say that the popularity of the Emoji Movie?
Yes, they're making another one. So yeah, they're the kids love it. They're going to bring their kids out to see it. So
are you sure about this?
I'm pretty certain.
Well, somebody should have learned a very, very valuable lesson, because the Emoji Movie was garbage. Yeah, if they are coming out with another one, I'm trying to. It was Sony came out with the Emoji Movie. Mm-hmm. For me, they've basically redeemed themselves with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Mm-hmm. They're probably better off making another one of those than they are bringing out another Emoji Movie. But we'll see about that. But hey, sometimes you do have to make a correction. We got to bring up the king of memes. Probably for the next month or so. Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, absolutely. And I watched Game of Thrones. I didn't notice it. I know that they have since removed the coffee cup from the shot, which upset me. I would rather them leave it there, because that's one of the biggest things of, this isn't going to stop you from watching it. Yes, we made a mistake, but it's funny, and you're not going to stop watching Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, and now it's like anytime that you see a meme now, it's like it's a scene from a movie with a Starbucks coffee cup. Mm-hmm. I forget. I saw it a couple of places. People making the reference to, well, it's not a Starbucks cup. It's a Westeros cup. Mm-hmm. The best in dragon coffee. You know? Uh-huh. So,
and then I don't know if Starbucks did this in response to that, but I don't see how they could have got their marketing up in time. But now they have a dragon fruit smoothie.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was like, man, if they hadn't, that's an amazing coincidence, which is absolutely possible, but that could not have happened any better than that.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, everybody has said, all the people that gets paid for continuity, somebody needs to get fired. And let me remind everyone, there's nobody to fire at this point. The show is over. Yeah. We're seeing them now, but they're all in the can and all edited.
They got their paycheck. They got their paycheck.
This is the last season, so nobody's getting fired. They've already went home. Okay, so that's not going to happen. But that was just like the weirdest thing ever. And I wonder if it went through somebody somewhere had to, especially I would say in editing, somebody somewhere had to go, oh my God, somebody was drinking Starbucks, they left the cup there, and somebody didn't say, nobody's going to notice. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to notice. Underestimating the internet, obviously, because anything like that, people are going to notice.
Well, way back when Alfred Hitchcock said the same thing to people about when there were no shadows for the birds in the birds. He said, they said we need to go back and put shadows in. He said, nah, just leave it.
Yeah, so, like, who's going to notice?
Yeah, who's going to notice? Just leave it.
It's like, if people notice there's no shadows, then mm-hmm. I'm not doing my job. But yeah.
It was a very dark episode. The whole episode, it was shot dark. It was hard to see things at times. I heard about some people having to turn up the brightness on their TV just to see it, those sort of things. And when I looked at the picture and I saw the cup there, to me, it didn't look like there was a shadow of the cup. So it kind of already looked Photoshopped to me, like it wasn't really there to begin with, but people had to lighten up their TVs to see stuff. So it is absolutely possible they could have missed it. Or if it was just dark enough to look like a mug, the kind of mugs that they used and that they were doing. It was a scene where they were doing a lot of toasting and they were doing a lot of knighting and they were doing a lot of, making people lords and such. So it was a very party, boisterous scene. So
yeah, and somebody's going to want coffee.
Yes,
So there you go. Well, so let's mention a couple more trailers that dropped actually in the last couple of days to end up the show. And the first one, it wasn't exactly a trailer. It was more of an extended scene for Brightburn. And you've seen parts of this in the last trailer, but it's the woman in the diner, the waitress in the diner, gets attacked and has a bad time of it, shall we say. Obviously will not survive this. And I believe that this is a mother of a child that picks on our titular character, our young Superman. And this was a red band trailer, so this was unpleasant. You could tell from the trailer before that her eye had gotten injured. You get to see how her eye gets injured.
Ooh.
Let's just say it involves breaking glass, and it involves a very long scene of a piece of glass, a very big piece of glass being removed from an eye. It is a close-up shot.
Oh, that's Salvador Dali right there.
Wow. It's pretty horrible. And she ain't gonna make it. She's just not gonna make it. But that, of course, they released this red band. They just wanted to let you know, hey, folks, this is indeed the prequel to Man of Steel. In fact, it's even probably going to be worse. So it looks like it's going to be. Well, it's a rated R movie.
Yeah, and they should know. But I mean, there were people taking their kids to go see, Sausage Party. So I have no.
Hey, it's got a kid in it.
Yeah, no expectations.
Yeah, but that comes out on Memorial Day. Mm-hmm. But there was one trailer that dropped today.
Yeah.
It's Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Oh, yeah. Just when that started off, Brian, and having read the book, I knew who that woman was.
Yeah.
And I knew what was in those teacups.
Yeah.
And then she started that whole my fada, and it was like, that's straight out of, I can read it off the page in my head.
Yeah.
That's straight out of it. My fada. And
Yeah, so it and it was, in a sense, it was a bit of an extended scene as well. Mm-hmm. And it helped to introduce the Losers Club and all of that. Of course, this movie, I'm really interested to see this because everybody who's read the book, I'm sure they pretty much all agree that the part with the kids was the stronger storytelling than the part with the adults. But what I've seen in that trailer, I'm like, I can't wait. And it has been confirmed. I'll just say this. It has been confirmed. We are going to see the Ritual of Chud. It is in the movie.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like, how?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm like, how are they going to do that?
But it's there. Mm-hmm. It's already been confirmed, yes. Okay. And they know how crazy it's going to be to put this on film, but they're doing it. It is in the movie. It's already in interviews, been saying it. Yes, it is in there.
Okay, spoilers to those of you. The tongue twister. He thrusts his fist against the post and still insists he sees the ghost. Well, in Chapter 1, the movie Chapter 1, we only hear that one time, and that's such an important part of the Ritual of Chud.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Well, they may refer back to it because because you do see clips of them as kids, mm-hmm. and we may get some flashbacks. Mm-hmm. So, and of course, for people who've not read the book, that tongue twister was basically used to break a stutter.
Right. Stuttering Bill's and
right.
To help with his stutter, and that's what they end up using in the Ritual of Chud, which is tongue twisters and jokes and riddles. And so, I'm excited to see that, but they just didn't seem to have made it an important enough plot point in the first movie for it to be such a big deal in the second movie, I guess is what I'm thinking and seeing right now. Yeah,
mm-hmm. I would definitely agree with that. But like I said, when I heard, the Ritual Chud's going to be in there, I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. But then again, this was like when I was watching season 1 of American Gods. There was a lot of stuff that showed up there that I had did not expect to see at all. Mm-hmm. But again, Stephen King, he jumped up on Twitter and said, I've seen it and you're going to love it. So he's happy with it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, I knew that the chapter 2, the second movie, was going to be the tough one because it's the weaker of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm. As far as the source material goes. Yes.
As far as the source material is concerned. Mm-hmm. But really, I can't, it's going to be, like I said, I don't know what to expect out of the second movie, except that it's obviously, they're not going to pull any punches at all. Mm-hmm. And so, I can't wait. I'll be there. I mean, I was the guy who, with chapter 1, decided instead of seeing it in a theater near me, to hop in my car, drive 3 hours to Columbus and see it in IMAX 3D.
Yeah, because you want to see a 10-story tall Pennywise the dancing clown. That's
dancing in your lap. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but I may do this again for part 2 just for completeness sake. But yeah, we got that September the 6th, and again, I'm just going to bring this up. More stuff for Good Omens. We're seeing more and more of it, and oh my good, May 31st, the end of the month, so at 3 weeks away. But countdown to Good Omens, and I got to tell you, I think you and I we're gonna have to make that our viewing review,
our weekly
review when it comes out, and talk about that because.
Yeah, we finally found out that John Hamm is not God. I thought he was going to be God, but he's one of the angels, one of the archangels. Yeah. So a Gabriel or a Michael situation here. So, but it's very exciting, and
I cannot wait.
And there's so much. And also, Brian, for once Supernatural's over, and then you finally decide to watch it, you will be amazed how much they pulled from Good Omens, because there's a demon named Crowley, there's a demon named Azazel, and so how much they pulled from Good Omens. So you'll be excited when you finally do decide to take up Supernatural.
Yeah, now one thing I will mention, and this is something that Neil Gaiman has said, because people have asked him, he's like, look, if I haven't read the book, should I just hold off on it and watch the show? And he said, no, you should read the book. And the reason for that being is that, number one, there are going to be Easter eggs from the book that are in the show that you're not going to pick up unless you've read the book.
Okay.
But he said the thing, too, is that we were mindful that we wanted to make this a love letter for people who've read the book. And so there are going to be things that happen in the show for people who've read the book that, if you've read the book, you're still going to enjoy the show. Mm-hmm. And there's some things that they've added to the show that were not in the book. And so just because you've read the book doesn't mean, you don't need, that the show, there's no point in watching the show. And so he suggested, read the book. He said, you'll enjoy the show more if you've read the book. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I wanted to, even though we're still 3 weeks out, I did want to bring this up because you got 3 weeks to finish the book.
Read your book.
Mm-hmm. Read the book or get it on audio. I've been listening. I have the audio version. I've been listening to it to kind of revisit it.
Who read it?
I forget who it is, but but he's great. He's
the one that I listened to was a very posh British voice. Mm-hmm. And it sounded perfect for it. It
might be the same.
Exactly what you hear.
Yeah, I think it's we might have the same copy of it. But when Good Omens rolls around, we will definitely be talking about it week by week, and I cannot wait.
Because when I listened to American Gods, that was a full cast recording, so there were 30 voices.
Right.
So that's but this was one voice, very very high class, posh sounding. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. 3 weeks and counting, folks, and
hit the library.
Mm-hmm. And so with that said, we come to the end of episode 66 of the Geek Watch podcast. Thank you for listening, and tune in next week for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. From Andy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.